Hi, Mr. Lombardo, and everybody else out there who's playing this. Welcome to Release Date Rewind, a podcast you can find in audio and video that celebrates movie and TV anniversaries. I'm your host, Mark J. Parker, a film fan and filmmaker, and in each episode, I bring on a friend or two to chat with me about a movie or show that we love. For March, the theme is thrills, especially those wet and wild thrills that take place in a bay. In this episode, we're steaming things up, so kids, you might want to listen to something else because we're sailing to the swampy and sultry Blue Bay, Florida, and celebrating the 25th anniversary of the jaw-dropping Wild Things, which made a splash in U.S. theaters on March 20th, 1998. We spoil all the twists and turns on this show, so if you haven't seen it or would like to watch it again, I highly recommend streaming it on Showtime while it's there this month. All right, schemers and double-crossers, hop on the boat because it's time to rewind. Okay, friends. Well, two's company, three's a crowd. But tonight, three's company, because I have two friends. One friend that hasn't been on the show in a long time, and one friend that's never been on the show. So I'm very excited to welcome back Jeff Bugajski, who was in my very first episode talking about Psycho and Seven. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, everybody.
And I also want to introduce everybody to, you might already have heard of him. You've heard of his podcast, FriGay the 13th, a very cool, very queer, popular podcast. Andrew Huff, welcome to Release Date Rewind.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this movie today.
I am so thankful that you guys are here. Andrew had responded on Facebook when I put out my list to put out my feelers, and then Jeff commented. And Jeff, I remember a while ago I rewatched this great, crazy movie 5 years ago for its 20th anniversary, and I feel like that was when I was working with your husband Tariq, and I feel like I mentioned that to Tariq, and I feel like you guys watched it too, and I just remember Tariq and I at our desks were humming this amazing score. Ooh, right? It's very sultry. So I knew that you love this movie, so I'm glad you're here too, because now we have our threesome. There you go. Hey, now in our threesome, who do we want to be? Who's Matt Dillon? Who's Denise? Who's our girl Neve? Do we have a preference?
I do not have the chops to be Denise in this.
I know she's got so much going on, and I forgot Denise is actually an amazing actress in this. Of course, it's very campy. A lot of it's over the top, but I don't know, the tears this time were really working for me. She is quite good, I thought.
Her stares are pretty intense, right? Lots of snarls, lots of staring.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah, I will say I did grow up in the country, so I guess I technically qualify, as a Susie.
Oh, okay. I love that. And you got as you told us, you have your craft shirt on. Can you lift it up a little bit more? Oh, yes. It's so funny that you're wearing the craft shirt because on my latest rewatch today, I thought, something tells me Susie's favorite movie is The Craft.
Yeah.
You just get that vibe. What about you, Jeff? So, okay, if Andrew is Susie, are you Sam Lombardo? Hi, Mr. Lombardo. Or are you Kelly Van Ryan with the smolder, the stairs?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not. I mean, I am an educator. So
yes, you are.
I should be the guidance counselor.
Okay.
Maybe I should just go full blown, bad guy.
You totally are, and I mean, it's appropriate. Yeah, that's you. So then, okay, great. I'm gonna take my top off, and I'll be Kelly in my little white socks and my little girl shoes. That's so freaky, by the way. That's a really weird little detail for me. But anyway, okay. So we're gonna talk about the movie in a minute, but I want to catch up with you guys quickly. I'm gonna start with you, Andrew. So you have been working on a great podcast called FriGay the 13th for 5 years now. We were just talking about it. Any fans of Drag Race, if you follow FriGay on Instagram, they just had Lucy LaDuca, who's on this current season, do an awesome little, 5th anniversary shout out. So you were saying, so she's a fan of your show.
Yeah. Lucy has been listening to us since almost the beginning. And it just so happened that she got on RuPaul's Drag Race. She didn't tell us, obviously, and then all of a sudden I was watching the reveal, and then there she was, and I was like, "That's our listener! What is happening?" And so So yeah,
love
she was very
that.
nice enough to kind of put something together for us to put out on social media. So
That is so cool.
um,
I love it. Yeah, you guys have
yeah,
grown and grown. Tell us about the show for anyone out there who isn't sure what FriGay the 13th is. Tell me about it.
sure. Yeah. Friday the 13th, we're a horror podcast. We mix it up a little bit though, and we talk about horror in real life, and then we match it to horror in the movies.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, we did one time where we did Sorority Row and what was the other movie? But they're both campus movies. So they're both
Okay.
college campus movies. And
Love it.
we paired it with kind of what's happening at Notre Dame with the state of like their football program and the rape culture that goes on there and how that's all
Yeah.
covered up. And so we kind of like mix it up. We try to take the first half of our show pretty seriously and talk about some, in real life, like horrific stuff. And then we try to
Yeah.
lighten it up by watching a couple horror movies and really having fun, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is having fun. So
Yeah,
but
you
yeah, we've
really-
been going strong for a while
you,
now,
you
and
take us on a ride for sure. There
Yeah.
are some high highs and like serious lows. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, good for you for going this long, and you're just getting more and more popular. It's amazing. What's your
yeah,
secret?
thank you so much. Perseverance.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
and having
Love
a
it.
consistent schedule, because if as soon as you're off
Yeah.
that schedule, then it's like, well, I don't really want to do it anymore, or
Right.
or you find a reason not to do it next time, or you know what I mean.
Totally.
And then like just like really harnessing the power of other podcasters and social media, because
Mhm.
they're trying to do the same thing you are.
Mhm.
And I think just like making friends with that group and really
Mhm.
like relying on them to help you and answer questions, or if you're going through something with like editing and you have a question, there's just so many forums out there for
Oh,
people
yeah.
to get together. And it's actually really humbling that so many podcasts would get together and help each other out. And
Oh yeah.
it's a very nice little community out there. So
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I've met great people, just other podcasters on Instagram and Facebook groups, and yeah, it's cool. It's fun to be part of this crazy community of hardworking people with sometimes very little payoff, or sometimes every now and then it's like, whoa, I just had a good day with listeners. So there you go. I'm gonna throw it over to you, Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
So okay, fill us in. What are you doing tomorrow?
Well, actually, tomorrow I'm just playing husband and dad.
Oh, okay.
But
Is
it's
it Sunday?
is the
Okay.
half marathon. Yeah, it's the New York half
Wow.
marathon. Yeah, starting out in Brooklyn, going down Flatbush, heading into the city, taking the Manhattan Bridge, and finishing in Central Park. So,
Oh my
yes.
gosh. Have you been training for this for a while?
I've been training for 1 second, bud. I've been training. So if you hear kids, it's just the kids. They know the rules. Supposed to be in the other room, but
They're big fans of Wild Things.
big fan. They watch it, with their fingers through their eyes. Sunday. What was I saying?
What time do you have to be up early on Sunday? I assume.
Yeah, I have to be there like at 7:50.
Okay.
That's when I start. And I have my old time, which was like from 4 years ago. So I probably should be another like wave back, but it's okay. I'll just let them pass me and, wave them as they blow right by me.
Oh, for sure. I think that's so awesome. So, okay, your last marathon was, you said 4 years ago.
The last half was 4 years ago, and the last full was in 2014. So
wow, impressive. Me, never, 0 for me. But I'm waving from afar and cheering you on. That's amazing. Now, did you? Because I know in the New York running scene for marathons and half marathons, did you have to do like a lottery or anything, or is this not like that?
Yeah, I got lucky. I did the lot. I know like people that are really like gung ho about it. They do the races and stuff like that. So most people, they do the races, they do the 9+1, and they try to get involved. I was just like, name in a hat, cross my fingers, hope I get in, and I got in. So yeah, I was just needed some inspiration.
Good for you. That's great. What a great way to kick off spring, because I think spring is Monday. I think
Monday.
It's the same day this film came out, March 20th, 1998. So it's a great little spring sizzler, right? I guess. I don't know. It's a good way to get out of the winter and get into some warm seduction and twists and thrills. How would you guys classify this movie? I know we can easily look it up, but in your own words, I'll start with you, Andrew. How would you is it? We know it's like a thriller. What are the words you would use? Sexual thriller, noir. What would you say?
I would say that I think this does fall into noir, but it's like a specific kind of noir. I would classify this as like almost like sleazy noir, if you
Yeah.
will, because it's acted over the top. It's like it's kind of all over the place with its twists and turns, but it also does have a good narrative about sticking with people and not trusting people. And
Yeah.
really, when you go into this, I don't think I ever imagined what this movie was actually about going into it the first time, because of the way it's set up. So yeah, I would call it like a sleazy noir movie.
Yeah, I like that. How about you, Jeff? How would you classify it, like in your own genre terms?
I mean, I guess I kind of piggyback off Andrew. It's kind of like because it's not really I mean, it's a thriller, but it's not a whodunit, but kind of a whodunit,
Right.
you know. And I remember, you know, I was gonna tell you when I saw remember the trailer. Well, hold up. I have my Wild Things ticket stub right here.
Oh my God, love it.
Oh my gosh.
Love it. Who did you go with? Do you remember?
You know, I was racking my brain. I'm like, who did I go with? Who would I've gone with this movie? I'm like, I didn't have a girlfriend, right?
Right.
Maybe I think it was like these two guy friends, and we were like, okay, this is fun.
Okay,
You know?
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was two guys from high school. Yeah, it's sleazy. I don't remember being so campy when we saw it in the theater.
Yep.
You know, I think we were like, oh, it's Neve Campbell. Oh, it's this new girl from Starship Troopers or something. And then, you know, Matt Dillon. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Andrew's statement.
Yeah.
Long story long. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I feel like I would call this, yeah, you're right. It's not really a thriller. I mean, it's thrilling, but it's sort of like a it's not really a mystery, is it? It's sort of like a smutty sexual caper? It's not a caper. I don't know. But it's more than just like well, it's obviously more than a drama. It's more than a comedy. It's sometimes it's meant to be funny. I have to say Bill Murray is so funny. And even all these years later, he does make me laugh. But yeah, and then at times, of course, then it's accidentally funny, and we'll get into that for sure.
Yeah.
But let's rewind, boys. Let's go back to March 1998, March 20th, when this film came out. I'm going to just briefly set the scene for us, chime in with your thoughts. I'm going to tell you what was going on in pop culture, and then we are going to nerd out over our favorite scenes, favorite lines. There are many. I quoted lots of lines in my notes. Okay, on the music side, the top song was Getting Jiggy With It, which I feel like is appropriate for this movie to come out, you know, during that era. Destiny's Child, No, 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 and Madonna's Frozen were also in the top 5 songs at the time. On the theater side, since Jeff, I know, oh, look at you with the cocktail.
It's St. Patrick's Day, right? Can we say that?
It totally is. You're right. I just have seltzer, but I mean,
There's rosé in this cup.
Oh, good boys. Drink up. I need champagne to, you know, put all over me and guys. On the theater side, since I know Jeff goes to lots of theater, lots of concerts, guys, it's shocking he's available tonight. So thank you for being here. But on the theater side, I thought this was cool to say, because this was such an iconic production. On Broadway, the revival of Cabaret, starring Alan Cumming and Natasha Richardson, had just opened just a couple days before this, so that was huge, right? On the TV side, Dawson's Creek was airing its first season. If you haven't heard out there, I do a long, very thorough, very fun episode all about Dawson's Creek that was last month. Here's some other shows that maybe you guys know some of them. They all like really spoke to me. So anyone familiar with Bug Juice on the Disney Channel? That was kind of fun. A camp reality show. Anything?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. How about you, Andrew? Anything?
I was definitely more of a Nickelodeon person growing up than a Disney Channel, but that name sounds super familiar.
Yeah, Bug Juice was, I believe it was a camp either in New Hampshire or Maine, and it was super fun. It was a short show, but I'm sure it's online somewhere. That had just premiered. What else premiered? On ABC, TGIF, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place with Ryan Reynolds back before he was like super chiseled. That had just premiered. Oh my God, get this. The MTV world famous docuseries True Life was about to premiere right after this. It was late March that premiered. And then the Teletubbies were about to premiere on PBS. So there you go. A little bit of something for everyone at this time.
You know, Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place has one of the best Halloween episodes of all time, if you can find it. Yeah,
really?
It's very good. Yeah.
Wow. Andrew, you know your Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place
Yeah, I was obsessed with that show.
Were you? I remember
Yes.
watching it. I loved TGIF back in the day, but I have no memory whatsoever. I just remembered Ryan Reynolds was in that. No memory whatsoever. So, okay, the Halloween episode. Good to know. Gotta find it. And then last thing is popular movies other than Wild Things. Titanic was still number one. It was, I think this was week 14. It was in theaters. I
Ay,
mean,
ay, ay.
isn't it crazy? Like, no movie could do that now. Can you imagine any movie being number one in theaters for that long? I think it's pretty much impossible now. People are just interested in things, and attention is fleeting, and right? There's just
Yeah, I've mentioned this before on our show, but like it is kind of incredible how fast movies come to home theaters now. I mean,
yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, you waited a good 6-8 months for a movie to go to
Oh, at
VHS,
least.
and like
Mhm.
it's so different now.
And a
Well,
full
even-
year, I remember, to HBO. Remember, you had to wait like a full year. Now it's shorter. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw Cocaine Bear, which if
Oh,
you
yeah.
have not seen it, it is spectacular. And
Nice.
also it's available on your TV. Like it came out 2 weeks ago. Like it's already on Apple. You can rent it for,
Wow.
I think you can buy it for $25 and rent it for 20 or something like that.
Right.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
think also because I think that is going to be on Peacock if I have my companies right. Peacock, luckily, I mean, for me, because I go to the theaters every now and then, but I do like to just stay home. I think that's going to be on Peacock like by early April because Megan was fast from January to earlier this month. So yeah, it's
Right.
super fast, not only for rental, but then to actually like streaming. It's amazing. But Titanic took quite a while because that was in theaters for a long time. Other popular movies, The Man in the Iron Mask, also starring Leo, the star of early 1998. Primary Colors, Hush, such a guilty pleasure with Jessica Lange and
Hush.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Can we talk about that from that? We just watched it recently, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like, what is going
so
on in this
fun.
movie? Like, what? There's like no, like nothing. I mean, something happens, but like nothing happens at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And then it just ends.
Oh, and Gwyneth and Jessica and Jonathan Sheck. Is that how you say his last name? Sheck? Yeah, wow. I just remember that being so, even as a kid watching it for the first time, I was like, this I know already is just such a guilty pleasure. Like you just know from the get-go, like, okay, this is like
Yeah,
pretty
She's gonna
low
chew-
level.
she's gonna chew that scenery up,
She
right?
is. Oh my God, so much chewing. And then
Classic.
The Wedding Singer. That was another popular movie. I just talked about that in my last episode. So that was a big rom-com at this time. But in comes Wild Things. So before I tell you, just briefly about the main players, where they were in their careers, I want to hear, Jeff, I'll go with you first since you were talking about your movie ticket stub. So do you think, so you saw this in theaters. Did you go opening weekend, do you think? Or
Yeah, it
what
says
does it
March
say?
23rd, March 24th at and I went to a matinee. So it must have been a weekend because I did not cut school for this.
Okay.
Ticket was $4.25. So now
Interesting. So I wonder if March 20th was a Friday, because if so, then 21, 22, 23, then the 24th would have been a Tuesday and a matinee on a Tuesday. Maybe it was spring break? It is sort of a spring break movie. I just
yeah,
realized
it
that.
could have been. Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know. It's just
Wow.
yeah.
That's so funny. So you were in high school.
Yeah, that was my senior year of high school.
Oh, how
Yeah.
iconic. How about you, Andrew? When did you first see this movie?
I remember that I blind bought this on VHS from like I don't know what it was, probably like a Meijer or like a Best Buy or Suncoast or something. Just
Yeah,
because I mean
Suncoast.
this is coming off of Scream.
Mhm.
Everyone's in love with Neve Campbell.
It girl.
Denise Richards is like fresh on the scene. Everyone's in love with Denise Richards, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy it. It was probably like $25 for that stupid VHS. I'm sure.
Especially at Suncoast. I loved Suncoast in my mall back home, but oh my God, it was very easy to blow a lot of money on like just a couple movies. Yes. Wow. Okay, good. So you blind bought it. I love that. You just went for the VHS. You saw the girls staring at you. That poster is iconic, right?
Yeah,
Their slick
sure
back
is.
hair. I mean, Nev looks downright kind of scary. She's so dark. And then the guys are like, like down below. Oh, love it.
Mark, I want to say, I think I had that as a screensaver, like a background on my computer, because it was so like sexy and sultry, and it's just like dirty.
And yeah, it's so smutty and dirty, but sexy and like intriguing. And I think they're all just so committed, like on the poster and also in the film. They're all just giving you looks and they're just serving the smolders. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to go on this ride with you, right? I forget when I first saw this movie. It wasn't in theaters, unfortunately. Although I definitely saw Scream 2 in theaters a couple times. But I think this was probably like a pay-per-view, like rental on TV once it, probably later in 98. Fell in love with it. I agree with you, Andrew. They had me hooked on Neve Campbell. I remember playing the trailer a lot on my old computer. It was very pixelated. The sound was tinny, and I was like, "Ooh, Blue Bay," and like Neve with this red hair. And do you guys remember when Scream won? Scream, the first one, won the MTV Movie Award in the summer of '97. Neve was there with her Susie look. She had the red hair and so she was starting the promotion early. And I remember I was like, "Why does she look like that? What the heck?" And then in comes Wild Things. So yeah, I just remember jaw dropped, so crazy, I'm going to sound like an absolute fool, guys, but I'm going to just tell you this. So I loved Neve Campbell so much, still do. She's not in Scream 6, we know, but at least we're talking about her here in Wild Things. Scream 6 is pretty good, by the way, if you haven't seen it.
Good.
I saw it. I specifically did not go opening weekend to support Neve. I went on a weeknight, and it's worth it. But I loved Neve Campbell at this time so much that I want to say maybe a year or two later, after seeing this movie a bunch of times, I had an audition in New York for, I want to say it was As the World Turns, one of the soaps. And the role of this boy was in a courtroom, and he was like a witness to something. And I loved this movie so much that I'm like, I'm just going to act just like Neve Campbell does in Wild Things, even though it had nothing to do with the character. So
Like her? Were you going to sit like her? Like
I sat like her,
up?
Jeff. I sat like her in the chair with my like leg up, my knee up, and I was like really kind of hunching over and like very kind of like nervous and like totally wrong for the character. I did it the first time, and I remember the casting director said, "Okay, put your leg down, right? Remember, you're in a courtroom." And I'm like, and I think I might have said, I was like, "Well, Neve Campbell has her leg up in Wild Things." and they're like, "All right." And like, you want to change your posture, right? Don't hunch over. I'm like, and I just remember I was annoyed. I was like, no, that's not how you do it in a courtroom, right?
Mark, you must have still been picking your fingers too, right? Like,
yes. I love that she's doing that. She's hunched and she's like, and I was very quiet. I remember she said, "You can speak up." And I'm like, "No, you don't get it. You don't know courtroom." Okay. So that's how much I love this movie. So little nerdy fun.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
Right. So let me introduce just our main players. We can talk about them. So starts with the script, right? Writer Steven Peters. He had written some smaller, more obscure things. This was really big for him. He wrote a film called Dead Center. Now, I'm sure you guys saw, the script was a little different. Not too much different, apparently. The director, John McNaughton, did say that they pretty much stuck exactly to his script, but they brought in another writer to just fix some dialogue. But there was, apparently, a gay scene that we didn't get. How do you guys feel about the lack of a gay scene? Are you okay with it, or do you really wish we got it? Because I think I would have liked to have seen it. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, we had the threesome, right?
Yeah.
We had the lesbian, the bisexual threesome. I think that was good. I don't know if we did an extra man on man. I mean, now maybe, but not then.
Yeah, well, the financiers apparently just were like, that's way too far. And apparently Matt Dillon was glad that it was not included, but Kevin Bacon, who also produced this film, really liked the idea and wanted to do it. And I say, thank you, Kevin. I am on your side. What about you, Andrew? Are you cool with it not being in there, or do you wish it like that other twist was in there?
I'm good with it not being in there because too many people are already falling in love with Matt Dillon in this movie. Like literally everyone is falling at the heels of Matt Dillon. And to have another person, it's kind of like, yeah, we get it. Like he's a good looking guy, but it's not this. Is there no other attractive people in South Florida? Like what's happening? Like,
Blue Bay, in Blue Bay,
what was it? Yeah. In Blue Bay, yes. Oh, I love that, Blue Bay. It also sounds like because later in the year was Disturbing Behavior, which I feel like is this movie's like cousin, and Disturbing Behavior was set in like another bay, not in Florida but somewhere else. But if I just want to like get all the Bay movies together, and, like,
Antonio Bay with the fog.
Yes, the fog. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Well, Mark, if you're talking about in Bodega Bay and the birds, right?
I was going to say, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff is going to be on my other episode. We're not going to do it tonight because I haven't rewatched it. Maybe next week we'll talk about the birds, another bay, another animal movie from alligators and crocodiles to birds. But what was I saying? Yeah, you bring up a good point, Andrew, that you're so right. Everyone is so, from the get-go, everyone is so obsessed with Sam Lombardo that you're right. I do actually kind of like that, like, can someone not be attracted to him? Because even Perez, Daphne Rubin Vega,
I know.
I forgot that the camera zooms in, they are about to kiss. And, the horn honks, but like everyone's obsessed with him that, yeah, maybe it's actually kind of nice that at least Duquette, can control himself.
Like he's just a guidance counselor. What's the sexual desire here? I don't understand.
He has a pension, it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, so sexy, it's like,
I don't know, guys. It's working for me. He is so good looking
in this movie? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
my
even though it's like
God.
a couple years after To Die For,
Yeah.
he was doing something right.
Oh my God. Things were working. Although, and we'll get to it, his face during the three-way scene is a little goofy. He's doing like an Elvis like thing. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. But no, everything else is working real well for me personally. Those t-shirts fit nicely. But and everyone looks good. So okay, so that's Steven Peters, the director, John McNaughton. This was kind of random. Maybe you guys saw this too. He had, directed some TV, I think Homicide and, different things, but he was up until this point and still beyond most well known for directing Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, right? So pretty extreme, and then, pretty cool to have that. And then this, I mean, the guy just goes for it. And then let's go through our lead actors. We'll just go through the main four. Our actor and executive producer, Kevin Bacon, he described the script as the trashiest thing he had ever read, but every few pages, there was another surprise. He was hooked. He knew he had to do it. He was just in Sleepers, which I do like. That's a pretty heavy drama. And Picture Perfect. I think that was with Jennifer Aniston the year before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actor Matt Dillon was just in and Out, which I've talked about on the show. Love In and Out, where he's blonde. And also Albino Alligator, which I never saw, but I remember seeing the big poster at the video store and just loving that title. Albino Alligator, right? And fun fact, I was looking up everyone's ages because Matt Dillon, to me, I think it's just that thing where like when you first see a movie, that person is just always older than you. But Matt Dillon was only like 33 or 34, and he seems so much older to me. I don't know. Does he seem older than that to you guys or no?
Yeah,
that feels about right. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's weird now, but I'm like, I'm older than he was in this movie. I don't look like that. I don't look like, he's already kind of got that, like, in a good way, like the dad bod kind of going, like he's such a man that I'm like, dang, I think
it's the voice. He's got that really, like, man, that.
Yeah, like he's kind of been through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Rugged.
Right, a little rugged for sure.
Yeah.
Then we have Neve Campbell, our girl. As we know, she had just come off Scream 2. She was currently still in Party of Five. Season 4 was airing. So she was the it girl. I mean, God, I love her. Actor Denise Richards. Wow, what a splash. Literally in that bathing suit. Oh my God. She
I like your stroke.
I like your stroke. Oh my God. Oh my God. She, like we said, had just done Starship Troopers, which I also love. That was a big, big thing. So she was kind of newer-ish on the scene and becoming quite a star. And I was looking up her age. It's funny. She was like 26 or 27. Neve was about 23, 24. And then, Kevin Bacon was older. He was 39. So it's just interesting I'm always curious, like, how old people are when they're playing high school. Because Denise, I mean, not that 27's old, of course, but she looked younger. I think she kind of looked the part. I don't know. What do you guys think? She didn't look too old.
Yeah, she looked.
No, I think, yeah.
Yeah, like how people do in movies, right? Like 10 years older than teenage, right?
Right. Yeah. Very, very soapy. So
well, and they definitely dress her in a certain way too to make her feel younger. Like you mentioned, like the little lace socks and buckle shoes and like.
Yes.
When we were looking at this, I also looked up their ages. I was like, I actually thought she was younger in this movie. If anything, I would have swapped the ages. I would have thought that Denise would have been 24 and Neve would have been 27.
Yeah. I know. It's funny. Neve always, even in Scream, like she always looks like so good and so young, but just there's like such a wisdom on her face or something that makes her seem older than that. But yeah, and something I forgot. Those are our four leads, but in the opening and closing credits, Teresa Russell, who is acting for the gods, honey, she is in between Neve and Denise. Poor Denise, who is giving a lot of action here. She is 5th on the list. I thought that was interesting. I think this was maybe before Denise had her and her agent had the power to, get her up there. I just thought that was kind of weird. Huh?
What was I know Teresa. Teresa Russell for me used to be on like the late night softcore adult movies on HBO. So like not Last Seduction, but like things like that. And I'm like, I remember being in theater. I'm like, good for her. Finally getting in an A-list movie. She's got her. We've seen her boobies 300 times, and now maybe we'll see them today. And I think we do.
We actually do. Yeah, she gets her own sex scene early in the film. She's showing it off before the younger kids do, for sure. Yeah, she is. I so badly want to see, and I feel like I told Tariq this, Jeff, a long time ago. I need to see a live version of this film. Maybe it can be a musical. I don't care. It can be downtown somewhere. I need to see Wild Things live, and I need the mom especially to be played by a drag performer. I just need she is so over the top from the get-go. Can't you just imagine seeing a drag queen just in her whatever, I think she's in her underwear or a bikini or something, oh, is that Sam Lombardo? Right?
Yeah. Well, they did that for Showgirls. They about 10 years ago, they had the musical parody of Showgirls playing down on 42nd Street, and it was the best thing ever. I mean, I feel like they could do that same thing with Wild.
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, because Showgirls and Wild Things are related for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think you could even do the three main girls. So the mom, Neve, and Denise, all as drag stars.
Yes. Thank you, Andrew. Yes, absolutely. That's what I wanted to say, but I didn't want to go overboard, but thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially Denise. I need to see a drag queen in that outfit with her hair, with the champagne. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that three-way scene, we'll get to it, but wow, very eye-opening in my life was forever changed from that moment.
We've come to the halfway point of our senior seminars. Our guests today come from the Blue Bay Police Department.
Why don't we begin with a question? What is a sex crime?
Not getting any.
So let's talk about our favorite scenes. We can go through the movie however you want. I'm going to throw it to you guys. Why do you love this movie? What is quintessential? When you think of Wild Things, what are the scenes, the moments? Andrew, I'll start with you and we can piggyback back and forth. Andrew, what's one thing right off the bat that you just love about this movie?
I think honestly, Denise Richards steals the movie for me, and I'm always so sad when she gets killed off. And it's just because all of her actions are just so over the top. Right from the beginning, she's in the auditorium, and her first line in the movie is, "F off" to that guy that
oh my God, yes,
touches her ribbon or whatever, and it just never lets up from there. Even when she's seducing Neve Campbell, there's just so many parts where she is just so iconic in this movie. I mean, where that she basically spends half the movie dripping with water.
You're so right.
And just there's that iconic shot of after her friend leaves the car wash and she's made her way into Sam Lombardo's house, and you just get this shot of her weird little jelly sandal shoes, and then it pans up, and it's supposed to be her sexy moment, and you're just what? All of a sudden the movie has changed, and you're like, what movie is this, and what have I gotten myself into? And I just think that she's iconic in this role. I don't think that anyone else at this time could have lived up to that part of for this. And then literally the scene that drives me is the courtroom scene, so the one that you were talking about. And when she launches across that courtroom and she's like, "You skanky bitch," and she just throws the glass at Neve Campbell. It is such an over the top telenovela type of acting, but I'm here for it because it just amps up the camp factor that in some I feel like this movie actually is pretty uneven on how it wants to either be super campy or super serious, depending on what character you're with. So when you're with Kevin Bacon and the crew, it's super serious. It's a crime drama. You're trying to figure out what's going on. But then when you're with Denise Richards, it's to the moon and back how high she's acting. Same with the mom. And then when you're with Walter and his grandma, I'm only assuming it's a backwoods comedy, and it's so it is a little uneven, but I think it works. So those are kind of things that really stick out to me.
Welcome to the town of Blue Bay.
Hi, Mr. Lombardo.
Hey, girls.
So where's your hose, Mr. Lombardo?
I think for me, it's hard because I just love this movie. From the second I saw it, I'm like, this is crazy. So I could see some people not liking it because it is so uneven. And you're right. It seems like the Denise and Teresa Russell side, total camp. A little bit of Neve's side with her family, camp. The guys are pretty straight playing for the most part. They have their moments. But yeah, absolutely. How about you, Jeff? What's one thing that you want to throw out there?
The one scene that always whenever I think about Wild Things, and it's not really like a huge thing. Well, maybe it is. Is Neve Campbell's wig on the boat?
Yes.
Oh God,
Her wig is so bad, and it's just because it's so blonde, you know, and like that boat.
And it's got like a little like
yeah, it's like you can literally see her hair under the wig, right? Yeah. It's so big and bouffantish, you know. But it's like that boat scene I think about. Of course, the threesome scene. I mean, it's classic. The pool scene where they're fighting, and then she's like puts her finger to her lips. Yes. I was like, oof.
Oh,
am I a lesbian now? You know, like no. And then it's so funny, but it's after the movie with the credits.
Oh, I love. Anyone out there who has seen my shorts, I love a scene during the credits. So maybe I was inspired by Wild Things to keep that going. I don't know, but I love the end credits. Tell me, what do you think of all that? Does it make sense to you? What do you like about that?
I kind of like. I think about like, did they always plan on showing that? Did they want us to like figure it out for ourselves? Because I feel like I don't know. If it was made now, which by the way, this would be on Lifetime now. Like it would not even be in the theaters. You know, it would, be free. I'm not saying it's a bad movie,
right. Or you never know. It could be like that 365 Netflix movie that apparently I haven't seen it, but is very sexual. So it could be streaming and just be very campy, but like super duper sexual. You never know.
Right. Yeah. No, it's I wondered, I thought maybe what would the movie be like if they didn't have those end credit scenes, which I think really ties it nicely together. We wonder like, how would she fake her death? Oh, she's literally pulling her own teeth out.
Oh my God. Yeah. That is
teeth scene. That's just always, I'm like, oh,
so painful to look at, but also so funny how he's squirming and she's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. What I love about the post, or I guess the during credits scenes is, it fills in the blanks. And it also shows us, because at the end, and we're spoiling everything and that's how it goes, but at the end, Susie is the one left standing out of this crazy web of lies. And so what I love about those scenes is right off the bat, it shows us like how she seemed to mastermind the whole thing. I assume those credit scenes are kind of in order. She goes to Sam with pictures of him and his student, Kelly, right? So that gets the ball rolling. And then I think next is Susie and Sam spying on Ray Duquette, Kevin Bacon, and like how he's a dirty cop, and how she's getting Sam to like go be his friend, and like he's gonna want to kill me. Like this was Susie's plan, I think. Is that what you guys got from that? That like Susie kind of was the mastermind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
right?
She's kind of the one that goes to him with the plan in the first place. I think that they probably plan most of it together, but I think like, and there is like so this is what I was reading about the unrated version, is that there is a deleted scene where it explains that Susie is actually the illegitimate half sister of Sandra, right? Is that the mom?
Wait, Susie is the illegitimate half sister to Sandra?
To the mom, yeah.
Right. Then she would have been the one to inherit,
to get all the money. Yeah. Not Kelly.
Yeah. Interesting. Whoa. Okay, so I did not know that. So Andrew, you're blowing my mind a little bit. Okay.
I mean, it does help understand her, why she's like there's obviously different reasons for people to join in on the chaos here. And I think it gives her a little bit more reason about like the money portion of the plan. Like I get the revenge portion of her plan with Ray, and even at the end, with Matt Dillon's character, but like, I think it just gives her a little bit more depth in like why she's participating in this and why she feels like she's owed this money. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. It's more of a motive, more of a connection rather than just girl from the wrong side of the tracks that reporter calls her. I remember seeing that and being like, oh my God, you bitch. But yeah, that's true. That's so interesting. I wonder if they cut that just because maybe it was too complicated.
I think it got too complicated. Yeah.
Yet another reveal. Yeah, it's hard to keep them all on track. But yeah, so after that, I'm just thinking of the other credit scenes. After she's with Sam with Ray, then it's the tooth thing. Then we see that moment on the beach. What happened when Kelly, goes to the car to get a blanket or whatever, and then we see Ray and Kelly in her guest house and how she did not shoot him like he told people. He's doing all that, and then I think it ends with then good old Bill Murray, that attorney. He's in on it. Oh my God. When I first saw that, I was like, wait a minute, what? He's in on it and gives Susie all the money and takes out his fee. And I do love how he says, like, we have $1 million for Ruby and Walter, her family, right? I love that. And he says, and then I took my fee out, and then she gives him a kiss and walks off like, oh my God. So it's like, wow, it's crazy. I almost need to see like a cut that shows everything in chronological order. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if a fan has made that out there, just so I can like connect all the dots. Because one thing that I think I understand, but what do you guys? I want to ask you. It's hard when a movie like this is talking about a character who we never see, and that's Davy. That's Susie's friend Davy. I'll ask you first, Andrew. What do you make of the Davy storyline? Does it work for you? Does it kind of confuse you a little bit? What do you think?
It is a little confusing, but from what I kind of gather of what they give us in the movie is it sounds like Davy was maybe like someone that Susie grew up with, because because they're all hanging around that bar, and even like they talk about how Ray had like a woman there that he was canoodling with, and Davy became obsessed with her. So I can only imagine that he was just kind of around all the time. And then when, they have the reveal that Ray was like abusing the woman and Davy stepped in to like try to help, and that's how he got shot. That's kind of what I put together just from like what they gave us, because there obviously is a connection between Susie and Davy, but it's never explicitly said that it was like her boyfriend or her brother. So I can only assume that wrong side of the swamp is like kind of a neighborhood in and of itself that, looks after each other, and kind of like that. That's what I got from it, but I may be wrong. I don't know.
No, yeah. I do like that reveal very late in the movie. It's, I think, after Ray is actually, he's thrown overboard with Susie shooting him with a harpoon, that, Ruby explains to Perez just how dirty Ray is. Yeah. And how he put Susie away in that, whatever it was, correctional facility or whatever, for 6 months. Yeah. What about you, Jeff? Does the Davy connection work for you, or is it a little convoluted? What do you think?
I think it does. I actually don't know. I mean, I know it's part of the story, but like, I let that part just kind of wash over me, and not like, I'm like, okay, great. But I was thinking about there's like one thing that's always bothered me, and it's about believing what happens. Cause like when you're watching, not about Davy, but like when Neve gets killed, and like you see the champagne bottle and the swooping, and it's like, yes, someone's and then like you see her in the car, and I'm like, that camera trick is if it had been a second, it would have been like, oh, she can't be dead. Like, she's not dead. But like they lingered on her face behind the bag a little bit too long for me, where it almost seems like a gag, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, like a plot hole kind of thing. I'm like, wait,
interesting.
Dead. Like, I just thought it was that scene. I'm like, if they maybe have just not shown it like in Psycho, where they closed the trunk, and I'm like, okay, now I can believe that maybe she's alive because you didn't see her breathing, or like, I don't know. I just.
Yeah, that's interesting. The close up of her is definitely an interesting choice. So yeah, when you see that close up, is that when you kind of have the feeling that she's not dead, or you feel like she's got to be dead?
She's got to be dead. There's no breathing. She's not going to fake not breathing when the trunk is, for us, the audience, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Well, the other part in that scene too is where it shows like a spurt of blood, like legit, like drenched blood, and I'm like, her just pulling out her front teeth is not going to create like this.
I know.
This,
right.
It's
spurt
actually
of
it's
blood.
quite gross. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never really I knew it was blood, but like not until this latest rewatch I was like, okay, that's a spurt. That's like a geezer. Okay, enough. Also, why did the bottle not break? Wouldn't you have thought the bottle would have? I mean, I don't know. You just see so many movies where any bottle just breaks on someone's head.
Right.
It's weird that it never broke. I'm like, that is quite a strong champagne bottle.
Well, I will
Right?
say that it was full. Like he never
Yeah.
opens it, and so I just imagine like a full champagne bottle is much more robust than
More-
like
yeah,
an
more
empty
solid.
one. You know,
That's true. That's true. And I just love that twist that only about 15 minutes after the epic three-way scene with the three of them, where we realize they're all in on it. It's all this plan. I mean, what a brilliant way to reveal that. Insane. But Neve is the one. Susie's the one that pops the champagne bottle and then starts drinking it. And then only 15 minutes later, the champagne bottle, a different one, is used to quote unquote kill her, right?
I don't know. Did you read in the trivia that originally in the script, you know, when she kind of walks into the hotel room and we're right before kind of the threesome, and she has that towel, and you think like,
yeah.
oh, could that be a gun? Could like
Yeah.
where are we at with this? I guess in the original script that was supposed to be like a penis.
A
And I was
dildo,
like,
right?
what?
Yeah, what do you make of that? Like, I guess was that original idea to show that like they are freaky, like
Freaky,
Sam,
I guess. Yeah.
Because I heard the same thing that I guess it was a dildo, but then they changed it to a champagne bottle. Yeah, that's.
Can you
pretty
imagine them
interesting.
like flapping it around like the champagne?
Yes, and like the girls are like putting it by like Matt Dillon's face or something, right?
Right.
I think that would have been too far. I'm okay with the Ray and Sam makeout session in the shower. I'm all for that, but the dildo, that
Yeah.
would just be like, okay, what's going on? Especially in this is, it's funny. The movie, of course, we know it's campy, it's sexual, but it doesn't really get sexual and like really kind of lurid until the three-way. Then after that, then like you said, Jeff, then the
Floodgates are
girls,
open.
then you're so right. The floodgates are open. The girls are slapping each other and drowning each other, and that's when Denise has her other epic line: "You stupid cunt, you skanky bitch." I mean, she's got these 3-word like great one-liners, and then they're doing this makeout session in the pool, and then like there's just a lot of like I love you. Like then it really goes full throttle into like kooky sexy time. But yeah, that three-way, my mind was blown. I liked the idea of like, ooh, does she have a gun? Because it makes sense. Like she just yelled at Sam and threw stuff at him and forced his Educator of the Year award to break in public, which I'm like, okay, young lady, like I just wanted some teacher to be like, all right, you need to calm down. You need to go to the principal's office. But I guess because she's a Van Ryan, she gets away with it, right?
Blue Bay.
Blue Bay. Do
Blue
not
people.
tell Kelly. What does her mom say? My favorite line of maybe the whole movie, but definitely
Wait.
from Sandra is, say it, Jeff. Do you know?
Go ahead. My daughter does not get raped in Blue Bay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yes. I also love when she says right as Kelly's going to tell her mom, which I have to say, I love, that close-up shot of her tears in her mouth, like I was raped. But she tells her mom, or she's saying like, I miss Dad. And her mom's like, well, he didn't have to kill himself, Kelly.
I know.
It's so like Teresa Russell I honestly, there must have been a second director that was like, you're just going to handle everything Teresa's doing because she is in a different movie, right?
Yeah.
I love it though.
Her and her
love
boy
it.
toy.
Oh my God. Yeah. What's his name? Frankie. Yeah. And then she has another great line on the phone with Sam. And this is when we start to suspect that like she and Sam have a history, right? Which is confirmed later when Susie has her great, monologue of truth in the courtroom that, she wanted to hurt Sam and Kelly wanted to hurt Sam because she found out Sam and Mom were having an affair. When she's on the phone with Sam, she goes, I haven't found anyone who can handle my boat the way you can. And she's saying it directly to Frankie, who is just giving her a great time. I mean, Frankie looks good, and I'm like, oh my
She
God,
wasn't
gosh.
having it.
She
was
wasn't
not
having it.
it.
Frankie is not Sam Lombardo, who, as the cops say, has slept with half the women in town, right? Which, going back to what you were saying, Andrew, about the removal of the gay scene and how you are okay with not everyone so obsessed with Sam Lombardo. The movie is interesting that it's showing a little bit of, when a guy has a lot of sex, he's just so appealing to everyone. The guys want to be him. The girl, some guys want him. Every woman wants him, right? Like I said in the beginning, every student is looking at him. Every mom, right? So there is something like, I don't know. I don't think that would be necessarily part of the movie if it was made today, where it's like, we're going to really celebrate the guy that gets a lot of sex. You know, that felt very 90s to me.
Where innocence can seduce.
He started rubbing my shoulders.
Accusations can destroy.
I'm innocent.
You guys do sex crimes, right?
When was this that Sam Lombardo gave you the ride?
Did Sam Lombardo rape you?
Yeah, okay, he did. He pushed me to the floor.
Well, even just the whole idea of like making up that you were raped. I mean, it's like the Me Too stuff. I mean, like,
yeah. What do you tell me more about that, Jeff? What do you think of that? Because this movie is very interesting watching it now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you know, because I just reminds me of Promising Young Woman, you know, just like that whole thing. But yeah, I don't know, this wouldn't be, I don't know if this would be as well received and loved as it is, you know, that was made 20 years ago. I think, yeah.
That's a really good point, you know, because not only the accusation of rape when it's not true, but also I thought it was interesting. I mean, I think maybe, I mean, I love all the characters, but I have grown to really, really, really love Daphne Rubin Vega as Perez. She's like maybe the smartest person in the whole group, even though I know sometimes she's sort of led astray. But, you know, what also is a little kind of risque, especially in our 2023 lens, post Me Too, is how immediately, once they interview Kelly and she's talking about, you know, all the stuff, and I don't want to make fun, but I just have to just quote how she says, his fingers. But I don't want to like make fun of, you know, obviously what her character is saying she went through, but I just had to like throw out that because it makes me chuckle. Anyway, but Perez, as soon as the video interview's done, she's like, I think she's acting. And I did think like, ooh, you know, yikes. She's on to something, right? She knows, but just the very accusation that this is a victim who is making this up, who's lying, I thought, whoa, I don't know if we'd be able to do that today. You know.
Well, can I just make a point about with Ruben or with Daphne? Like I remember watching the movie, I'm like, there are so many people that I recognize in this movie, and then like this other person, I'm like, who is this woman? And then it didn't dawn on me until 2008 when you know, 2006 when I moved to New York, and I was like, and I saw Rent, and then I started doing all my research. I was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
So she went from Rent to Wild Things, and like mind was blown. I'm like,
oh wow,
only, you know, 18-year-old me had known what like who this woman was. You know,
absolutely, I know. Isn't that crazy? It's a really interesting casting choice. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's a very white cast, so she brings in some much needed diversity, especially in Florida, right? And yeah, I was reading about her that she of course was in the very first run of Rent. She was with the show before Broadway, but I believe it opened on Broadway April 96, and then she left April 97, and then I'm sure shot this probably pretty soon after, right? So yeah, what a fun moment in her career for sure. Yeah, I just wonder what she thought of like all this crazy stuff going on in this movie, right? Yeah, I really like her, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of a little risque for right off the bat. The cops, at least she was like, I think she's acting, you know?
Yeah.
And appearances can deceive.
Kelly said that we should do this to hurt Mr. Lombardo. She found out that Mr. Lombardo was in love with her mom, and that was it. So you scared!
I'll say real quick, I know Bill Murray is problematic in real life, which is a shame because he obviously has done such great work. But at least in the span of this movie, I also just love that he has this fake neck brace, and like he's such like a schlocky, like just such a fool of an attorney, but he actually is pretty good at his job. And then, as I said, we know that he's in on it. I mean, I think that role is very fun. As a kid and teen rewatching this, I kind of didn't care so much about him, but as an adult, wow, what a fun role that supporting character is, right? I think we can't not talk about him. But what else, Andrew? Anything else on your list of like scenes that you just have to talk about?
Yeah, there is one line that always stands out to me in this. Is it when Denise Richards finally comes in and she, tackles him on the bed and she goes, "We did it! We screwed the bitch!" I thought that was
Yep.
pretty good.
Absolutely.
I noticed an interesting edit this time around, and it's right after the scene where we think Susie has been killed, and they shoot over to the Gator Park or whatever that place is,
Yeah.
and Walter is trying on teeth.
Yes.
He's trying on those dentures, and that's right after she lost her teeth. So I just noticed that this time, so I wrote it down just as something to look
that's
at.
a really good point, because I really noticed it this time too. What do you think they were trying to say? That, like, because were they trying to say anything, or like, because it's weird. There's a connection there, obviously, yes, to Susie's teeth that just were pulled out, but did we need Walter to be trying on some random person's teeth? I don't know if it like makes a ton of sense. What do you think, Jeff?
There's lots of, I think if you rewatch that with like foreshadowing in mind, I think you'll start catching things. Like I wrote down like in the first beginning scene in the auditorium when they talk about sex crimes, right? Mm-hmm. And like Susie gets up and she's like, I forgot what she says, but she curses at Kevin Bacon. And it's
what
like,
does she say? She calls him a prick. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not this, but there's something prick, and then walks out. And it's like, well, we didn't know at all. We thought he was always a good guy up until, halfway, 3/4 of the way through the movie. So like that's foreshadowing, right? Like her telling us that this guy is no good for no reason.
Yes.
I just think that there's probably a little bit more Easter eggs like that throughout the movie.
And you bring up a good point, because yes, that beginning is so like memorable. Sex, and then they're all like, ooh, and then crimes, and like I remember that was in the trailer right in the beginning. I mean that right there is like the movie, right?
Right.
But do you guys know, and forgive me, maybe it was said and I just am not remembering right now, why are they even having this assembly about sex crimes? Did something happen, or it's just like a mandatory, like, all right, everybody, you got to know about sex crimes, right? It's a little like, should that have come later, like after Kelly's accusation? Then they have like this thing without Sam there, talking about sex crimes. It's a little... I understand it's to get us right into what the movie's going to be about, but I just thought it was kind of random, because I don't think I had any sort of assembly about sex crimes in high school.
With two detectives on stage with a chalkboard. I mean,
No,
something must have, we should have known if something happened in the school,
Right. Yeah. So that's why I kind of almost wish, and I'm sure it's maybe a little too complicated, that this Davy character, who has a history with some of these characters, if there was something wrong with the way he died, if he died and it was a sex crime or something, like maybe that would have been a little bit more like, you all heard about Davy. I don't know if it's too on the nose or whatever, but maybe tying him into that and having the detectives there, and then Neve right away gets up. Like, I wonder if that would have made me connect a little bit more with this kind of like secondary Davy thing,
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me. Hey, listeners and watchers, my latest short horror film, Your Last Summer, is now available to stream on YouTube and Vimeo. It's a fan film written, directed, and produced by yours truly, following the events of the iconic 1997 slasher, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we've talked about on this podcast.
This came in the mail at my parents' house the other day. No return address. I know. It came the day after we drove around. Oh, shit. So someone saw us.
We're back in Southport, North Carolina, 25 years after the original, and that psycho fisherman is back too.
Jessie lives at Julie James's house.
You know the story. She gets a random creepy note in the mail, and then her friends die one by one.
Spooky, huh? Any mysterious notes? I know what you did last summer. I told you, he's back.
It's queer, it's creepy, it's out now.
This time around, I did notice that they washed the Jeep with the top off, so they essentially got the entire inside of the Jeep wet as well. I didn't notice that before.
Oh my God, great catch. I did not notice that. I love that you caught that. Oh my God.
And then I just have to give a little bit of like the 14-year-old me, hearing Third Eye Blind again and Smash Mouth and all these songs. It's incredible.
And like, Why Can't We Be Friends from Smash Mouth is a little on the nose after Susie does her epic like finger her to what is Denise Richards says to her, where'd you get your shoes? Horse for less or something?
Yeah.
But then why can't we be friends? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, got it, you know. Yeah,
And
the
Neve Campbell
soundtrack
does
is
that
great.
iconic the way that only she can flip off people because it's like half the knuckles are up. She's done it in Scream too. It's like
Yeah,
I can't even do it.
Can't do it.
It's like a very simple like, and then her tongue. Yeah. Oh my God,
Yeah.
she is just so good in this movie, and it makes sense why she wanted to do this because this was like that era where like some of the WB stars, some of the like the various TV wholesome stars wanted to kind of go get bad, like do something.
It was her
off
poison
character.
ivy, right? Her
Yes,
poison ivy.
it was totally her poison ivy, and I know Jessica Biel like soon after this did like her Maxim, like I don't think she was fully nude, but I just remember there was that photo shoot and she was shedding her Seventh Heaven image, so that was kind of this era,
Yeah.
Well, I wrote this down. I said, would any normal girlfriend let two teenage girls wash their boyfriend's car in the driveway? So the girlfriend, I was like,
Barbara.
Oh, I'm just gonna go. Here, have these two girls. You can see through their shirts. Everything's cool. Hi. Like, no, that's not gonna.
It's a fundraiser, Jeff.
Yes. I know, and I love because it's a fundraiser. They need him to go get his like a ticket or a coupon or whatever,
yeah.
just to prove that they washed Mr. Lombardo's car. Yeah, I thought that too, Jeff. That Barbara is. So she knows something's up. Like right off the bat, she's like, I'm leaving Sam. And that's when Denise gives us an iconic, so where's your host, Mr. Lombardo? Right? But yeah, she walks to that car. She knows something's up, but she goes. And then I'm like, and then later, it's actually, I mean, it's always kind of a bummer, even though I know Sam's a bad guy. But like, when he's at the club, he's obsessed with the club. Oh, I'm going to the club with Barbara, right? And they won't let him in. And then in comes Barbara and her dad, Sandra's lawyer. What's his name? Tom something.
Maxwell, right? I think.
Is it Maxwell? Yeah, Barbara and
I think
Tom
so,
Maxwell?
something like that.
Something like that. But then Barbara's there and she's like, she can't even look at him. And I'm like, well, you kind of like had an inkling of what was, you could have, I don't know, right? You shouldn't be so shocked, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and also I kept I mean, if you look at this cast, right? It's Neve, it's Denise, it's Matt, it's Kevin, it's Teresa, it's Bill, Robert Wagner. Yes. I mean, big name, right? Am I missing anybody else? I mean, I and then they have these like this no-name writer, this no-name director. So I'm kind of like, was Kevin like, no, guys, seriously, this movie is going to be amazing. Let's all do this movie together. Trust me.
You're so right.
Right?
It is crazy how they got all these people. I mean, Bill Murray, like,
right? I mean, and honestly, up until the other night, I was like, oh my God, I forgot he was in this. Like, he's just kind of like, but he's perfect in it, just.
Oh, totally. Yeah, the casting is really interesting because you're right. We have very hot people of the moment. You have Kevin Bacon, who, especially at this time, was just always a star. Like he kind of had the golden touch. You have Daphne Rubin Vega. It's just very. I'm looking up the casting director right now because I gotta shout them out because it's a very interesting group, and I think the group is perfect. Like I would not have recast anybody. Right?
Right.
Really, I mean, they look the part. They are, as we said, they are acting for the astronauts in space. It is big, right?
One other note I had in my notes from this watch, I was like, only in Florida can you skeet shoot over the inlet, like over the water.
Right. Well, again, back to the foreshadowing, right? She's skeet shooting, right? That's how she dies, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. Good thinking, so, for sure. Yeah.
They it was smart, like smart directing, smart writing.
You know how my mom's paying you off? She's breaking my trust.
We bought it hook, line, and sinker. Now they're getting away with $8 million of Sandra Van Ryan's money.
You want my gut? There's more to this story than you know.
Now, okay, I need to ask you guys. Now, we love this movie. We are men. We are queer men. We love the craziness of it. I'm going to just quickly say the casting directors are Linda Lowy, and John Brace. So good on you two. Great job. Now, we're men. We like the smuttiness, the sexiness, and all that. Do you feel, and I hope, and it seems like the actors were all in on it, but especially with Denise, the blue bathing suit, iconic, but I mean, we are really seeing everything through that bathing suit. Do you kind of feel like, was the director like taking advantage of anyone, or do you feel like everyone kind of knew what they were doing? I couldn't really find too much trivia on that. It's more just like a hunch. What do you think? I'll start with you, Jeff. Do you feel like everyone kind of knew exactly what was going on?
I feel like it. I mean, the time that it took for her to get out of the pool, and she's just laying there and letting her hair drip. I mean, I feel like they were like, Denise, do this very slowly. You know, we are going to be on you for like a good 5 to 7 minutes. You know, like, yeah, we're going to just we're going to do it again. You're going to nice and slow. I think they knew. Yeah, I think they all knew what was going on.
Yeah. What do you think, Andrew? You agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think that, you know, the gaze in this movie does kind of shift towards the end. Like once Denise is kind of off, like the gaze kind of really does shift to the men. I mean, then all of a sudden we have Matt Dillon shirtless on the beach. We have Kevin Bacon in the shower.
Yeah.
Like I think it's equal opportunity smuttiness. And I think that's even, you know, plussed up by the accidental, you know, penis shot that we get.
Yes.
That even wasn't supposed to be in the movie, but they kept it in.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's why I wanted to ask your thoughts on this, because I mean, that scene is iconic, of course. It's so simple. It's funny now as adults, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's exciting, but it's
right.
Whatever. It's over in a second. But as a kid, I was like, whoa. But yes, apparently, you know, Kevin Bacon thought it was a different angle, and I guess he had, let me read it real quick in my little trivia here. He did have a no nudity clause in his contract, which apparently Neve did too, which makes sense because she wasn't showing anything. But without giving it much thought, he did allow the director to use the shot that he thought looked best. So he said, John, use whatever shots you need to do. I don't care. And so that moment of, you know, full frontal nudity was included, and Kevin did let it slide. So that's why I was kind of curious what you thought, like, you know, why were they getting that shot if there was a no nudity clause? You know what I mean? But I guess it was just the blocking. Like maybe Matt Dillon was supposed to stand an inch to his left, and he missed the mark, right? It must have just been totally accidental. But yeah, I hope.
Well, and then he went on to go show it again in Hollow Man. So
oh yes, I love Hollow Man. Yes, you're so right. I mean, at least in Hollow Man, am I remembering it right, Andrew? Where you see it, but it's like in CGI form.
Yeah,
right? You don't
it's in like his
see
invisible form.
Right,
yeah.
right. But oh yeah, it's there bouncing around. Yeah. So I mean, I do thank you, Kevin Bacon, for giving that to us. But yeah, that's quite a little moment there.
After tonight, the three of us not to be seen together again.
After tonight?
I was curious about how you see things working out for you and Sam and Susie.
Excuse me?
I mean, it's hard enough for one person to keep a secret, let alone three. Especially when two of them are in love.
You don't really think Kelly and Sam are going to share that money with you, do you?
Anyway. See, I always took it that Kelly was supposed to take the fall for Susie's death.
Okay,
and then him and Susie ultimately were going to ride off into the sunset together.
Okay.
After seeing that wig come out, I mean, it's everyone got. I think everybody would have shocked with that piece of fur on her head. But
it was it was very Peter Pan. I wanted her to go
very Carol Brady,
just start skimming across the.
Yes.
I mean, the wardrober, the wig person should not get an award for that. No.
Yeah, totally.
They established earlier on in the movie that they're like, when it's kind of how Bill Murray catches her off, like it's obviously all planned. We find out later, but it's how he catches her off guard. It's like, okay, when this happened to you, you called Sam. When this happened to you, you called Sam. So it's meant to believe that she had a certain sort of trust with this person and a certain sort of like either friendship or I never do really get the love between them, like a sexual love between them.
Yeah.
Even though they have the threesome and everything, but it always feels to me that Denise is like, she's the one that he has like a sexual relationship with. And even though they have a threesome, it almost feels like he has almost like a big brother energy with Susie. And he's like always trying to protect her. Yeah. But then they muck that up with the threesome, so that my theory can't stand. But it's just the energy around the way that they are around each other.
I hear you. It definitely feels like Neve is the third person in the threesome. Yeah,
right.
Susie is sort of, and she even at times. Well, let's talk about that three-way scene real quick. The way the girls look at each other when, I'd say the cringiest moment that I think we're supposed to cringe at is when Sam gets down on his knees and takes Kelly's underwear off, and he says that line, which I guess we needed it because it does confirm like, oh, this guy's bad. Like he should not be successful in this scheme. He says guidance counselors see the most interesting things. Guidance counselors get to find out all sorts of interesting things. And the girls look at each other. And it's definitely like obvious that I was about to call her Sydney. Susie kind of like looks a little freaked out by that, just ever so slightly. Like she gives Denise a look, but Denise is doing her like constant sexual like glare. So I don't know what she thinks about it, but I think that's a little bit of foreshadowing, like what you're saying, Jeff. Yeah, that's a foreshadowing that Susie's not fully 100% comfortable with this group. At least that's how I took it, you know?
Yeah. And I also think that is also meant to kind of like throw you off on like who's working together, who's not working together. Like, I think that that's intentional by the filmmaker to have them kind of all have kind of like looks and stares and different times, because even when Susie and Denise are hanging out together, just like the two of them in the car, like that energy is even way different. Like they're just like high school girls, like wanting to get wasted and have fun. Like, I think that that's where I think that in a different movie, the ending would have been a lot more, you would have called a lot more, because I remember the first time I watched this movie, I literally called barely anything, I don't think. But so and I do think that like I think that the filmmakers were intentional in doing that.
Oh yeah, I don't know how you could predict any of this, right? Forget it. What were we gonna say, Jeff?
No, I was just gonna say, I think when you talk about the threesome scene, there's one when he takes off her panties, and then you see him put them in his pocket.
Yeah,
and it's like I remember thinking, like, when I watched it, I'm like, well, was there like a plan to like do something with that? Like, because why would you just take off the panties and throw them around? Like, why would you put them in your pocket? Like,
right, because he takes off his shirt and just throws it. Yeah, everyone's just sort of throwing things, but that's like a little trophy that he's putting in his pocket.
Yeah, is there something to happen? Or
that's a really good thought, Jeff, for sure. Yeah, it felt kind of like, ew, that's creepy, and that's one, and then two is, are you gonna use that against her? But he never does. You're right. That is an interesting little detail that is a little creepy as I get older. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that.
Leave me alone. There is no case. Get out of these people's lives.
Sam, I'm really nervous.
I need you to be there for me tonight. We got to stick to the plan.
There's no one to trust.
You can trust me.
I think another cringe line that we have not talked about, and we can't leave without talking about, no little girl would ever
make me.
That grossed me out so much this time around. I was like, I cannot believe that is in this.
When you notice that it's slightly different, right? Because first he's the little bitch and then the little girl, and I'm like, oh, that's like, I think it's brilliant because it's just enough. Yeah. Like if it was the same, would it almost seem contrived and made up? But the fact that it's a little bit off from each person, it's like, oh, this is probably a real thing that happened. They raped these two girls, you know?
I agree with you. I took that as like, whoa, you know, even as a kid watching, I was like, whoa, it's not the same thing, but it's so similar that it has to be real. And also just how dark that he would change it. You know, he calls, you know, the princess a little girl, and then he calls the girl in the trailer, you know, a bitch. Like, ooh, dark. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, that line, I hear you, Andrew. That line it's rough. But I think we need it. I think it's hard because this movie, as we know, it's at times intentionally funny, at times unintentionally funny, but then it's very, very serious. I mean, the whole, like we said, the accusations of rape and all this stuff, and then that line, it's very darkly serious.
Now, have any of you seen any of the sequels? Because there are 3 sequels to this movie.
No, but let's talk about them. Have you seen any, Jeff?
I did not even know there were any, so I'm gonna Google them.
Yes, let me tell you the titles. So this led to 3 direct-to-DVD sequels: Wild Things 2 in 2004. Then the titles get more interesting. Wild Things Diamonds in the Rough in 2005, a year later. And then 5 years later in 2010, maybe the best title, Wild Things Foursome. Have you seen any, Andrew?
I've seen the second one, but for the life of me, don't ask me to explain it because all I remember is it's more centered around 2 women Obviously, they're probably trying to play up the titillation for like the direct-to-DVD audience, but I don't remember the plot at all.
I feel like, I'm going to look it up right now. I think in Wild Things 2, I feel like there's this actress who was in that movie also around this time, maybe a couple years later, The In Crowd. Do you remember that movie, The In Crowd?
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. It's very B-movie, but Wild Things 2, I feel like one of the leads was in that. Yes, Susan Ward. Yes, she was gorgeous. Has a 4.5 rating on IMDb. Same exact kind of poster, slightly different, but it's two girls in the water looking, seductive. But and a gun is in the water. Ooh, boy.
I see that.
Yeah, right?
A big gun.
A big gun, yeah. Instead of a... Now, okay, forgive me, but are alligators in this movie or crocodiles? Do you guys know the difference? I think they're alligators.
I always get this mixed up. So I'm going to assume alligator because I always think crocodile are the bigger ones, but I think crocodiles are the smaller ones and alligators are the bigger ones. I think.
What's the... I think, is it an alligator in Lake Placid? Totally different movie, but I don't know the difference.
I also
Jeff,
think,
you're in
it's
education,
alligators.
Jeff, you should
it's
know.
Alligators and Crawl, right? Which Crawl is also a Southern Florida movie.
Yeah, Crawl. That was good. Yeah, maybe it is alligators or crocodiles.
Well, if you talk long enough, I can Google this for you.
then there's Lyle Crocodile, which just came out. So
I did notice, like in this rewatch, we do get a lot of like after a sinister scene happens, we get kind of like a shot of alligator / crocodile, like surfacing in the water. I was trying to put that together because, they do this a lot when they edit Survivor. So like when somebody's trying to do something dastardly, they kind of cut to like either like a snake or a spider. And I was just wondering if this was like a predecessor to like that kind of editing to where we're trying to show like a predator after like something dastardly happens.
Oh my God. So you said, because I watch Survivor every now and then, even though I know it's so old, and it is still pretty fun. So they do that a lot in Survivor. They cut to like a creepy creature. What if the producers were inspired by this movie? Because this came out 2 years before that epic first season. So there you go. What'd you find, Jeff? Anything about...
there's a lot. It's a lot to read. Alligators are darker. Crocodiles are lighter. Alligators have wider U-shaped snout. It's about different snouts and whatnot. So,
God. All right.
So these have to be alligators then, because these are like not the pointed. The pointed snout is the crocodile.
These are more boxy. Yeah.
And I think crocodiles are more indigenous to like Africa than like like alligators are to here.
Alligators are in the Everglades. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. There we go. Thank you.
In Africa. Yeah, not in the other parts of the world.
Thank you, Mr. Bugajski, for teaching us. That's great. And I agree, Andrew. It's fun to see those. I mean, it's a little silly after a while, but after any like big moves we cut to, an
the apex predator
or like snapping or whatever, I don't love seeing, Walter really like manhandle the alligator for show, but I know that's a story thing. That's his thing.
I mean, have you been to Florida? This is very popular.
It's pretty popular, right? Yeah, I haven't been to that part, so I'll pass. And I just love how like Daphne Rubin Vega just goes back to watch. I'm like, girl, you don't have anything else to watch
on her day off.
Day off, right? Go to Starbucks or something.
And did you notice how at the end there on her day off, she's got her more wavy hair?
Frizzy. Yeah,
and it looks great because she's very straight haired, professional, and now she's on her day off. She's letting her natural hair out. And did you notice how Ruby goes? Perez says, "Oh, it's my day off," and Ruby says to her, "I thought you looked different." I'm like, okay.
I have my shorter skirt on today.
Right. I'm like, was that in the script or did they, I don't know, was the hair person not there? And so Daphne had to have her natural hair. And so they're like, quick, Ruby, just say something about how she looks different. It just felt like, okay.
I'd keep a real close eye on my new friends if I were you.
Did we talk? The music was good, but the score was it George S. Clinton?
George S. Clinton, who won. No, I think he was nominated for an award, but didn't win. But yes, Jeff, talk about it. I love it.
It's just like that. Just like it really just sets the tone, right?
Oh, I love that because we have the female, which again, going back to our drag show, we need to have like a drag queen go like, like, can't you just picture like Alaska, like like.
Yeah.
So you have that when it's sultry time or mystery time, but then you have that perfect ooh,
Yeah.
when like now we're like kind of with the bad guys and like we got our sunglasses on and we
Right.
got the money.
And you have like, that,
now it's
that,
like
that weird
playful.
like that wood instrument that kind of goes like drum,
Yes.
drum.
Yes.
And then there's even like a little like you know, and then of course, and then the third part of the score is the saxophone. That's when we're really getting.
That's when we're getting
deep
sexy.
in the sexy. That's when like Denise's just nipples are everywhere, and like we are just going full sax. Yeah, the score is so fun. It is. I have to say, on this latest rewatch, by the end, it did feel slightly repetitive. I'm like, I think now we could go on a slightly different note, but. Don't get me wrong, I love that score. If we were in person, I'd be like, all right, guys, let's just play the score and just like move around the room. Right?
It feels natural.
Just feel yourself, right? Yeah, I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
She's gonna blow it.
I thought it was interesting. I think this was on Wikipedia. Maybe you guys saw it too, that Robert Downey Jr. was the first choice for Sam Lombardo, which I can totally see at this time.
Absolutely.
This was sort of when he was in a trouble phase. You know, he had his I think he was an alcoholic, right? He had his addiction issues. And so he was considered to be the first choice before Matt Dillon, but I guess because of his drug and alcohol problems, he was in recovery and it was an insurance risk. I guess the producers and the financiers were like, we just cannot have him in this movie. There were just too many lawyers and insurance people, quote unquote, that were involved, and so they just said no. But I could see him in a scandalous movie like this back then. Not now at all. You know?
Yeah.
It's hard to like. It's so funny when you watch the movie so many times and it's like, you can kind of see it, but like to have anybody else in that role, it's like no.
I know. I don't know if Robert would Robert Downey Jr. have been as sexy. It's hard because he's so naturally kind of like quippy and
like he would almost be like, I'm comical. I'm like fun guy, right?
Right.
He'd be a fun guy, and
Yeah.
someone's a little bit more I don't know, not masculine. It's more rugged, you know.
Rugged and like because when he later on when like he's really directing the girls on what to do, you know, like he is trying to be in control and I don't know if Robert, he's just so kind of like loose and silly. It's
right. He'd be like, girls, do what you want, you know.
Yeah. What else did I see? Denise Richards' lawyer negotiated a detailed contract about how much nudity would be filmed, including the option to use a body double, but no double was used. That's all Denise. And I do love, and I'm sure you guys heard this too, I feel like this was also a thing in another movie around this era, but Denise and Neve got drunk on a pitcher of margaritas before filming the three-way scene, which I do love. I feel like that's cute. I feel like that happened in like another movie with Sharon Stone. She also had to get really drunk in like another lesbian scene. Maybe it was one of those If These Walls Could Talk. No, not Sliver, although I love Sliver. Talk about scandalous. Oh my God. Whatever Baldwin that was. I could have seen him in the role, in the Matt Dillon role. I could picture that. Right? I feel like that fits. But I just love that they had to get tipsy and makes total sense.
When you were saying that, I was like, well, Pat Sajak and Vanna White famously said that they would go get margaritas in between tapings of Wheel of Fortune.
Don't touch me!
Neve Campbell did have a no nudity clause in her contract because she was on Party of Five at this time, and Party of Five said that she couldn't be nude in this movie. That was like repeated over and over again in the trivia, so I definitely saw that as part of it. And it's definitely explicitly shown, like she's from the back while Denise Richards from the front, like the mom. They're not shy about nudity in the movie, so I don't want to say it's distracting that she's not nude, because that's not like what I'm trying to get across, but like it is like you can tell. You know what I mean?
It's a little obvious that, they couldn't even get like a hint of a side boob. Like, it's back, and because it happens twice. It's in the three-way and then in the pool scene at the end, right, of the pool scene, Denise is taking her shirt off. Yeah, I hear you. It is, you definitely catch it. You're like, okay, I get it, Neve.
That back scene is really, it's actually jolting. It's like everyone else having a grand old time, and here, we get Neve's back, you know?
Yeah. But at least you get that. I don't know. I remember it well right before the fade. You get Matt Dillon's arm is like grabbing her, just kind of pulling her in, and then it fades. So I'm like, okay, all right. At least we had like some movement. But wow, that had to be so crazy to shoot. I can't even imagine, guys. Like,
and not even without an intimacy coordinator as we have now. So
long before that was even two words said together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how long do you think that scene is? Probably what, like 2 minutes? More than? Less than?
The full scene with dialogue, maybe a little more, but like once it starts, once he starts untying her shirt and all
Right.
that, maybe. I mean, I feel like it's pretty fast actually. Maybe a minute and a half from like the start of it to that fade.
Yeah,
But no one ever forgot it though.
Oh my god, I sure didn't. I think it is such a moment.
Yeah.
And so now I'll wrap us up. I'll do post-release and the legacy. So speaking of that scene, it was nominated for the MTV Movie Award for Best Kiss, but shockingly, it did not win. I should have looked up what did win. I don't know. We'll have to.
Is this Cruel Intentions year? Because if it's Cruel Intentions year, that was like
that
infamous.
one, and that was the year later. That came out this time the year later. So March in the late '90s was like sexual, smutty, like fun time for teens. But no, I don't know. I feel like something really tame won. I forget now, but anyway, so that was nominated for that. Our girl Daphne Rubin Vega not only was nominated but won an award for this movie, a Blockbuster Entertainment Award. Do you remember the Blockbuster Entertainment Awards?
Oh my gosh.
She won Favorite Supporting Actress in a Suspense category. So there you go.
It's very specific.
Very specific. Oh yeah, they had. I mean, it was. I remember they had like action, suspense, comedy, right? What else? It opened at number 4. So, it made $9 million its opening weekend. It ended up making $67 million worldwide. So hence all the directed, DVD sequels. Not a ton of money, but I mean something substantial for sure. But it just was not a match for double dose of Leo, Titanic, and Man in the Iron Mask, right? Those were
Well, I think we were kind of like on the end of this trend. I mean, it all kind of started with like, the single white female of it all, the hand that rocks the cradle, these type of movies. And so by like the late 90s, we were kind of fading away from that craze. I'm trying to think of like, there's a ton of those movies in the 90s. So I think that this was just like the end of it. Yeah.
I think you're so right. Lifetime and channels like that, and just cable in general was like becoming so prominent. So yeah, movies like this were disappearing. Yeah, because the 90s for the most part were, I mean, perfect thriller central right there. But yeah, that's a good point.
Can I play too? Or is it just for boys?
Oh, I did see something. Maybe you guys saw this too. I'm kind of bummed we never got it. There wasn't going to be a theatrical sequel, but there was going to be a spiritual sequel called Backstabbers. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
Same writer and director were involved, and Denise and Neve were about to sign on for it. It was announced in 2006, a film called Backstabbers, and they wanted the cast back. Completely different roles, nothing to do with Wild Things. It just was same group, which I love. We don't really get a lot of that, And if I remember correctly, the story was it was set in a city somewhere, so totally different vibe, and it was gonna be another kind of 4-person thing, lots of lying and deceit, where a husband. It goes off the rails when a husband wants his wife kidnapped, and there's ransom money, and then there, all that stuff. But back in 2006, it was in the works for a while apparently, but it was announced some of the cast was returning, and then it just stalled out. And now it's been so long that I don't think these 4 actors could really do another sort of sexual noir. I think everyone's just too old, sadly.
Yeah.
No shade, but
Wild Things. 2's company, 3's a crowd.
I was really happy to revisit it. It's been a couple years since I've really sat down and like watched this movie. And, like you said, given the time that we're in now, it's just such a time capsule to a time that was just so different in how we looked at sexualization of women and how we looked at the quote unquote like twists. These would never be as a part of a twist anymore because of the landscape of what we're in. I just think that it's a time capsule of a movie, and I really enjoyed going back to it. It's really fun to see all these people that we kind of grew up with and see them back when they were just starting out, and just knowing what kind of careers they would have going forward. So it was really fun to rewatch.
Totally.
It made the blueprint to not always trust what you see, right? It's kind of like what you were saying, Andrew. Like, there's so many movies now where it's like, wait, I don't believe that that's happening because they're really alive in the trunk, or they're this or they're that. But no, I think it's always just fun to. I do love Neve Campbell, like, and it's funny to see how she's matured over the years. Like, she was so like all her little Nevisms.
Yeah, in this movie, she does have some quirks when she's
Right,
walking
like,
with the cops, and she's just like,
her neck, yeah, a lot of neck movements, you know, and like even in the last Scream that she was in, she was just like, "Yep, I'm Sidney Prescott. I'm just gonna."
Yeah, very calm.
You shouldn't go that way, you know, very calm, collected.
Right.
But it's just crazy. I think it's been 25 years?
25. I know.
I don't think we would have shows like Gossip Girl or You or like all these kind of shows like this without these type of movies from the late 90s that really like obviously these people who are creating these shows now grew up with those movies and are just kind of it's bled into their writing and their directing and their stories. And so it's just kind of it's resurfacing again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point too, especially this and then the year later Cruel Intentions completely inspired some twisty, sultry like teen stuff for sure. And you know, I'm just thinking about it real quick, like we love Neve, of course, and it's funny at this time she really chose such interesting films that were, we know, like obviously Scream and Scream 2 were huge successes, but still, even back then, you know, I'm sure we had those friends and people that were like, oh, I'm not watching that. Like, no, like that's like dumb horror. And like, no, we're not going to talk about Scream. Where now, obviously, Scream 6 just was #1 for the biggest opening ever of the franchise, right? It's more popular than ever. So she kind of was like ahead of the time with choosing these interesting, because like Wild Things, whoa, so daring. But now, I mean, it's such a beloved cult classic, you know? So she's got a good picker, I got to say, right? And that's why you got to be careful in Florida. And by the way, everybody, if you haven't watched, the great Hulu show Pen 15 has an episode in season 1 about the kids watching Wild Things at a party, and it is just perfection. It's so good. I felt seen watching it. You got to check that out if you haven't. Anyway, thank you for listening to or watching this episode of Release Date Rewind. And thank you to the Neve Campbell and Matt Dillon, to my Denise Richards, Andrew Huff from the FriGay the 13th podcast, and Jeff Bugajski. Aren't they just great? Thank you, guys. Jeff will be back next week for my 50th episode to discuss another March seaside thriller, The Birds. So keep an eye out for that. If you're a visual person, this episode is now on YouTube, and video highlights of our conversation will soon be on Portland Media Center's website and YouTube page. Thank you, PMC. Find me on Instagram at Release Date Rewind to see bonus content and more trivia about this movie. Thanks Greg Clements for the logo, Kyle Motzinger for the theme song, and, you know, even if this great movie never made it to #1 at the box office, I'm going to close us out with a cheer that Kelly Van Ryan and the Blue Bay High cheerleaders say. The Buccaneers are #1 and don't you forget it. The Buccaneers are #1 and don't you forget it.